emphasis.
Who don't know about JCI, JCI stands for Junior Chamber International. We are a nonprofit organization with over 200,000 members around the world. We are between the ages of 18 and 40 years old, and we're found in more than 100 countries. Lebanon proudly being one of them. And in Lebanon, we have two chapters. We have one in Beirut and we have one in Zahle. If you'd like to find out more about our activities in Beirut, you can follow us on social media. It's right here behind me, our social media channels. So I'd like to welcome our international guests who have joined us this evening. I'd just like to acknowledge those coming from Tunis, from Madagascar, Benin, Japan, and Syria. Thank you for being with us. And now I will introduce our speaker for this evening. It's our pleasure to welcome Unotida Nyoni for a training on authentic and effective speaking. Uno is a financial growth advisor and consultant, award-winning speaker, author, and a community impact leader. He is the founder of Grand Scale Inc., a platform where people are taught successive principles and provided with practical solutions to the pressing problems of life. With a focus on Africa and other emerging economies, he is on a high mission to accelerate growth and transformation within individuals and organizations. The goal is to help people identify, pursue, and maximize their God-given purpose and potential through coaching, training, and motivational sessions. In 2009, Uno contested and won the JCI Public Speaking Championship for Africa and the Middle East. He also served as one of the 2020 JCI Vice Presidents for Africa and the Middle East, where we had the pleasure of hosting him in Beirut for a couple of days. So Uno, thank you for being with us. For everyone else, if you need anything during the course of this workshop, feel free to reach out to myself or Vice President Marie Khalife in the chat. Uno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, President MJ. Can you all see me?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me try and share what I've got here so that we can start talking. President MJ, thank you so much for this invitation. And I'm really excited to be back in Beirut online because it's one of my favorite places, you know. Right, so we are talking about authentic and effective speaking. And there is a reason why I put emphasis on this authentic and effective, because each one of us has something to bring to the table when we speak that no one else can have. And it's important for you to realize that when you bring yourself to the speaking game, you are bringing us a unique brand that we all want to benefit from. So that's the first thing that I wanted to share with you, that, you know, you're bringing an authentic and effective self. But let's get into definitions first, and we will get to the rest as we go. So the first bit is that, what is being authentic? And being authentic is, the dictionary calls it, of undisputed origin. Of undisputed origin, and not a copy, super genuine. So how do you speak in a way that's genuine, that brings the best that you've got? Effective is, how do you get the intended results? Because for every speaking engagement, there is an intended result that you have, but how do you make it happen in that way? And the third one is, you know, speaking, the action of conveying a message. And I'm sure we all know what speaking is. So authenticity, effectiveness becomes the focal points that we will have. So let's start with effectiveness. How do you speak effectively? And I'm sure many of you know these, but we are just going to be emphasizing a number of things as we go so that you get good reminders, but I'm going to be sharing some stories as well. The first thing is that you've got to know your why. Why are you talking? Why are you, have you been given an opportunity to make your speech come through? There are a number of reasons why you could be talking. Perhaps the first reason is that you are there to inform, to make people know what they need to get, right? Or you are there to inspire. What are you looking for in this speech? What are you looking to give to the people? Because whatever you give, your why determines how the delivery is going to come through. Are you there to call people to action? Is this a riot call where we are in the city of Beirut and we're saying, you know, the government is not doing what it's supposed to do? How do you speak effectively to the masses for them to stand in the streets and say, we are going to protest, right? It's a different thing to when you just want to engage people. That's a totally different scenario. Or when you want to entertain people, you know. So the entertainment is really different from informing, and that's different from inspiring. And what happens is that your why drives you in the way that you're going to flow. And the moment your why is fixed in your head, everything else can flow along the why. And I think that is just about leadership in general, you know? When you know your why, when you know your purpose as an organization, when you know your purpose as an individual, the rest is easy to put in, you know? When you know where you want to go and you know where to put the ladder. There was a statement that Stephen Covey, for those who've read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says what leaders do is that they decide on which wall to put the ladder before they climb up, right? In other words, they're looking for the why, because you could be climbing the wrong wall, you know? It's one thing to go to an audience and you haven't asked a lot of questions about who your audience is. And then you find yourself speaking as if you're speaking to older folk, when in fact your audience are kindergarten. That's like you haven't understood your why. But if you understand your why, you are able to speak effectively. So that's the first thing. Know your why. If you can still hear me, please just say, I hear you.
I hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's unfortunate I can't just even see who is online and be able to interact with you in the way that I want to. But I know you're there, and hearing your voices kind of keeps me going, and I love it. Number 2, craft your message. And this, for me, is when you've understood your why, you now want to say what it is you want to talk about. So the way I do it, and I mean, many people do it differently, is I write short phrases. I don't write the whole thing, like the whole speech, unless if it's a formal gathering where reading a speech is acceptable. That's a different thing. But mostly, I just write bullet points, and bullet points are easier to understand. And this is why I have given you bullet points as well. And if, depending on the time that it will take me, the longer it will be, maybe I take more bullet points on my sheet of paper to say, this is what I'm going to talk about. But if it's short, sometimes I don't even write. I just write 3-4 points, and I know exactly how I'm going to speak to that. But also, any speech, no matter how long it is, when you are done writing the script of your speech, you can still break it down to these short phrases where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points that you can go with. Now you start thinking about how you're going to deliver your message. Of course, you want to have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And your why still is the determinant, how you're going to introduce it. If you're supposed to be entertaining from the very beginning, a joke would be good to put in as the first thing that you put in, right? But if you're supposed to be passing on a serious message where people need to be sober and they need to get the reality, a serious face that's starting that message has to come through, and you have to start on a sad note, you know, because that's the message that you are presenting to the people, because the moods work and your why is determining that. And perhaps this point is one of the best points. Use stories and examples that your audience can relate to. And the simpler the stories, the better. If you've got simple to understand stories, you're in. The greatest teachers of all time were able to tell stories. They told parables. They told, you know, stories where people could learn from. And those stories have kept information going. This is why people, like, the first thing a kid loves after they just gain consciousness and they can hear something is if you tell them, I want to tell you a story. They get on with you very well. I've got a nephew who is 10 years old. We started staying with him a year ago. And the one thing that he craved from me was when he went to bed is to say, Uncle Unoju, can you come in and read me a story or tell me a story? And that's what drove him to sleep. So I would go in, we choose a book, maybe the Trevor Noah, whatever, if it's, or one of his one of these books that children read. And I go in there and I start telling the story. The effect that has on the kid is amazing. First, he's laughing. Then he's looking at me funny. Then he's like, for real? And then he's asking questions. And then he's turning. And then until he falls asleep. It's one of the best gifts that we can give to the people, telling stories. All right, so make sure if you can, you have some story to tell. If you can paint it in a picture, in a story, then don't just say it as a fact. If the story will make it punch right, then go for the story and make the point after the story has been heard, right? It makes a good point when you put in a story together. And we are all great storytellers. None of us here can say we can't tell stories. Even those who think they have problems with their speaking. It depends what story it is you tell. When you tell good stories, something starts happening. And here are tips about how to tell interesting stories. Be descriptive. You know, if I am to tell you about my nephew, Darren, the 10-year-old, who in February 2020, just before the lockdown, came to stay with us with his mom, my sister-in-law, and how that changed kind of shifted the way I look at kids and the way I viewed relationship with kids. It starts painting a picture for you. If I describe him, he is a dark, maybe 1.1 meter tall young man. He's dark. And what he usually says about it, and what he used to say when he was a kid was that, I'm chocolate. So he goes to school with a lot of different races of young people. And one of the kids used to ask him, why are you so dark? I mean, these white kids would look at him like, what's up? And he came back to his mom, crying, why is it that I'm like this? And mama told him, you are chocolate. And so the chocolate bit of him is so clear. When you call him that, he lights up. And there's a word that he likes. So in Shona, if you want to say my child, you say mwanangu. Gosh, when I say to Darren mwanangu, he can melt. If I call him mwanangu from my own bedroom, he can come rushing to just come and fix one thing on my door. But when I just call him with his name, sometimes he doesn't, get it. Can you tell? The way I'm telling this story to you is in such a way that you can get the picture of who Darren is, how he has been brought up, what kind of things his mind is thinking about as a 9 or 10-year-old. That descriptive nature of a story is what you want to bring in. When you tell a story, give us the dates, give us what the weather was looking like, how you were feeling if you were in the experience. What pictures were you seeing? As you do that, there is something that lights up in everybody because they want to hear stories. Set the scene for us, draw images for us. And that's where we get excited with your story. Everybody still with me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the next. Practice your speech, and there are a number of techniques that you can use to practice. Here's what I do if I'm preparing for you would have to, now I can see myself super clearly. That's perfect. My light here it's got a sensor, so let me just switch it on again. There we go. All right. Okay, now it's exciting. I can see myself. So I was telling you about how I practice. So how I practice is if I'm going for a 1-hour speech, for example, I can, after I've written the speech, if I'm super nervous about it, I want to record myself saying a few points that I've written down. And usually the first 2-3 minutes I struggle because when you're listening to yourself, it's a bit of a problem. But if you give yourself up to 5, 10, 15 minutes and you keep on going, your ideas start coming along. So especially if you're struggling with whether you're going to be able to make an impact or not, you can just do that practice. And if you give yourself enough time, you can do one practice before a day before, and then the next practice afterwards. It kind of helps you to practice right. As you practice, you will find some errors in your logic. Sometimes your mind has given you some points, but it can get stuck when it's saying some points, especially if you're just using bullet points. So you want to be able to repeat that to yourself a bit more often so that you can understand. Sometimes you get ideas about how to change this speech, and then you begin to change whatever speech you have. So that's what I use when I do practice. And if there is a stage, I want to go on that stage and see where I am going to be, how I'm going to be moving around. And this sets the scene for me. But this one is fantastic. If you can't give yourself enough time to physically practice, you can do it in your mind. And that for me works like magic. So what I usually do, if I want to make a super powerful speech in 5 minutes or something like that, and I've talked about and I've gone through it a number of times, I just take a drive. And as I drive in nature, or as I see things and I'm thinking about what I'm going to be talking about, the points that I want to make and repeating them a little bit, a clearer mental picture starts coming through. And these things start getting exciting in my head. Sometimes my aha moment, sometimes you can prepare a speech, but you don't have that punchline. The punchline comes when I'm driving. I don't know what you do. Sometimes my punchline comes when I'm in the shower. Like, this is it. This is how I'm going to nail it. Because mentally, I can picture where it is that I'm going to do this, So mental practice is even if not more powerful than the physical practice. When you can see the whole scene and set it up in your mind. And make sure the image that you set up in your mind as you practice is one of success. If you really need to see people laughing, then picture them laughing. If you really need to see them writing notes down, picture them writing those notes, right? And then that's it. But then you can practice all you want. The time to deliver will always come. And that's the time that many people are afraid of. In fact, statistics shows that the fear of death is first and the fear of speaking is next. When people are given a stage to start speaking, the bigger the stage, even worse, people get super scared. Worse, if these are competitions, people get super scared just going in front of people and saying some stuff. And the more uncomfortable you are with the subject, the worse it is going to be. But I just want to give you some pointers there about how to manage yourself as you go and deliver. Number one, go for what you can remember. There are so many things that you have written down, so many points. But when you are in the thick of things now and you are delivering your speech, remember your mind might forget some of those things. And when your mind forgets some of those things, forgive yourself and move on. Don't dwell on a point that you haven't remembered yet. And this is one part that's super important. And remember that the fear you have is normal. It's like your mind is setting you up and saying, this is an important something that's going to happen. So your adrenaline is pumping, everything is ready for you to deliver. Instead of being afraid, just know that being afraid is working for your good, because what I have found is that whenever I deliver a speech and the adrenaline is high, the stuff I say, sometimes I surprise myself as I speak. So take note of that fear. It's something that's going to work with and for you. Use your podium very well. If your podium is here, you want to go to the right and to the left and engage people. Sometimes you want to go to where they are and talk to them. And sometimes you want to be with the people. So if we were on Zoom, for example, we could have breakout rooms. And as the host, I would come to you and just say hello to you. It's something, there's something that happens when you show that you are engaging and you want to engage with your people. Once again, like I said, engage. That's how it works. Ask questions that allow people to talk with you. And this depends. Is this a training? Is this a speech that you're giving? Or is it something that's gonna just, especially if you're doing a team building training, you want to be talking to people, but you also want them to give you feedback as they go. Okay, so that's the first part of effective speaking. Are there any points that you have, any questions that you have, any experiences that you have about effective speaking, or additions that you have that you want to share with us? If you do, please do so before we go to the authenticity part of effective speaking. Are we all good?
Yes.
Good. Tatiana,
Yes,
it's
all
good
good.
to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too.
It's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a while. Who else
Yeah,
is here? You know, all I can see is
I
YMJY, but I hear Japan is with us, and I'm super happy to have folks from Japan. I hear people from Tunisia. I hear this is an international speaking engagement, isn't it? Which other national organizations are here?
we have Japan, Madagascar,
Madagascar.
yes.
Fantastic.
MJ had the list. We can go back through the list at the end, maybe, or if people want to send it in the chat, maybe we can do that later.
Okay.
I just want to go back to the question of fear, and maybe stage fright, like how to overcome that. Like, let's say this is your first time speaking to 500 people. It's a massive thing. It's not something you're used to. Like, how do you engage to a big audience without being terrified?
Yeah, especially the bigger it is, then it becomes a little bit difficult for you to ask them to talk to you. Do you want us to open it up? I'm sure there are many other fantastic speakers here. How do you manage fear when you speak in front of people, folks?
Maybe we can discuss it at the end if we have some time.
Okay. No, don't worry. In terms of time, I'm super
We're
good.
good.
If I get contributions, I'm getting contributions within my speech, so don't worry about how that's going to go. All right.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So far so good, everybody. We're together. Okay. Now let's get to the bringing the you factor, because it's well and good to be speaking effectively, but if you're speaking effectively from, using the tactics and the voice of other people can easily read they read. So if you are going to come and speak like Obama, people remember Obama more than they remember the things that you are telling them. If you're going to talk like your TD Jakes and go all up and crazy, people know, yes, you are up and crazy, but I think I've heard this somewhere. So the effectiveness with which it was supposed to have is lost because we haven't felt Uno or Tatiana or Mario or MJ. They haven't come through. And because they haven't come through, the effectiveness doesn't get there. You need to come as you. Sorry, are we still showing the notes or?
Technically, we should be. Can everyone
Sorry?
see my screen? Technically, we should be.
Okay.
Can someone confirm?
I can see your screen.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So now, when it comes to authenticity, I use something that's in my book, and I use this in my coaching sessions every time, because I run what I call the personal brand scaling coaching program, where you are taking your brand, your personal brand, to another level. And in my first session, I take people through 5 things. I take them through their shape. You've got a spirit, or whatever it is that you believe in. The beliefs that you have, when you start talking about them, something happens, something lights up when you start talking about something that you believe versus something that you don't, right? So that what is it that you believe in? Because when you know what it is that you believe in, you gravitate towards it more and you speak authentically from a place of the beliefs that you have, right? When you speak the next one from the, so it's the S is the spirit, the H is the heart, and I love the heart. When you speak from the heart, you just get flowing. The heart has two things. The first, the heart is a place of passion. When you are talking about something that you're passionate about, if I'm talking about politics, my world lights up. When my wife starts talking about romance, or when she starts talking about relationships, her world super lights up, because the passion that she has on, you know, effective relationships, it's just fantastic. It's just something that, have you seen people that have speech impediments, but when they start talking about soccer, you know, the stammering or whatever goes away because it's their field of passion. When you're crafting your speech and you're crafting your stories, remember to put in things that you're passionate about, because the authenticity will flow out of your passion, right? You can even tell now the tone and the way I'm talking. It's like something has been put in because there's a passion, there's fire in my belly. The second bit of the heart is ambitions, your dreams. What is it that you have been seeing in your world, the things that you want to see? I tell you, when you start speaking about your dreams, something lights up. Even if you think you wouldn't be able to speak well, when you start speaking about the dream car that you want, when you start speaking about the dream partner that you want and what they should have and what they should look like, and you start describing them, gosh, your effectiveness really comes out. And that's the heart. Now, your abilities are also super important. If you're speaking from a place of knowledge or competence, the things that you're competent in, you can speak better in. If you ask me to speak about financial management, it's a subject that rolls out of my tongue very easily, because I've been a financial manager for 10, 15 years. There is no jargon in there that I cannot understand. So I would easily move in. What is it that you're competent in or you're used to? When you speak about those things, if that is coming into your stories, remember that that's going to flow even better, right? There are natural talents that you have. If you are a fantastic golfer and you've been playing golf, maybe in some of your stories, you should be adding a little bit of golf. Take us through the golf game or the tennis game and what the examples of that tennis can do in your speech. You know, it works out pretty well. So that has to do with the abilities. The next thing is your personality. Your personality, you know, there are different types of personality, and I know many people take different courses on this. If you are mostly an executor, the people that when given a task, all you want to do is get into action. If your mind and behavior and thinking is usually set towards action, whatever stories you tell, if they have action in them, they light you up. If you are so much of a strategist, however, the kind of stories that you're likely to tell and are likely to be passionate about when you tell are more thought leader kind of stories. You are talking strategy, you are talking, your world lights up when you talk strategy. But if you're not that much of a strategist, but you're a relator, you love people, what relationships matter to you, your speech, as you craft it, it's got relationships in it. Your world lights up because that's the personality that you have. And if you are an influencer, someone who is magnetic, people just want to be with you. Maybe the fun, the entertainment becomes a part of how you speak. Because of your personality, you get to speak in different ways, right? So take note of your uniqueness, because you have a unique personality. The personality you have can, if taken advantage of, can make you super authentic, and that authenticity starts coming out. And then the last bit about authenticity is experiences. Folks, we have been given the gift of experiences from the time we were born. We did not choose which place we were born, we should have been born in, or the family that we have been born to. We did not choose some of the upbringing that we got. Those are stories. And my story is different from your story. If I tell you about the rural area that I grew up in and I start describing how our life was, it gives you more light about the person that I am in a unique way to someone else who didn't live the same way. Fantastic experiences can bring light to people. When you tell them how much you overcame and what it is you overcame, they start lighting up. But the most touching bits of effective speaking come when you speak the painful experience. If I give the people who experienced stuff in Beirut last year the opportunity to just share what they went through, I tell you, everybody saw it differently and felt differently about it. But you will see that when you do so, your story comes out easily than when you're talking something that's very far-fetched, right? So that was it about understand how unique you are. The second thing is when you start speaking, be calm and collected. Don't be in a hurry to finish. Don't be in a hurry to show the next slide. Don't be in a hurry to show the next point. I know a lot of people will have super like 50 slides, and now you know the time is rushing and you've got super, especially if you've got those slides that have points that are rushing through and you know you won't be able to finish. Don't do that to yourself. Be super calm, be super collected. I know you may be afraid, but you know, when you're calm and collected, it comes out even better. Number 3 on the authentic bit is if you see this as a business. So I train people who want to do speaking as a business. When money is involved, I tell you, you're going to make sure that stuff is going to go right. Remember, your speaking, your effective speaking is going to make more money for you when you talk to your clients and when you sell to them. Your effective speaking might put you in stages where your next investor might be. If you think about it from a money point of view, I tell you, it's going to motivate you to even think about it even better. But also there are different types of businesses in the speaking industry. Some are better at coaching one-on-one. So every coaching I have with people, every coaching session I have with people is unique. And the one-on-one is different from when I'm talking to 50 people. And it's a practicing stage that I have. I am doing business and at the same time I'm practicing my speaking. Training is really a different form of engaging with people, and JCI has so many trainings, and I encourage you to become a trainer if you want to, you know, up your game in the speaking field, particularly in the line of training. JCI has unique standards that they take you through, and it really is fantastic. Keynote speaking is different. Keynote speaking is almost what I am doing now, where you've given me an hour and all I need to do is to speak to you. There isn't much engaging because the time is very short. We don't have so much time. So I give you everything I have at once and that goes away, you know. It's a different kind. But also when you consult, when you do consulting, you know that you will need to speak, present points, say what it is that you know, and that's a form of speaking or of engaging with your clients or with many clients or with prospective clients in a way that makes things happen. And the last thing about, you know, taking it as a business or as a profession, you know, if you want to up your speaking game, write articles about the things that you want to speak about. I tell you, the mental shift that goes in when you start writing articles, something that you have written, when you start talking about it, comes in naturally because, first of all, you have prepared your mind to write it. Then you've written it. Then you've reviewed it. Then you posted it online. Then you got reviews from those who read or who've read your book or your article. There's a lot that you have gone through, and your mind has so many points to give out if you've written something about it. So I want to encourage you to start writing a book if you haven't, or I want to encourage you to write blogs if you can, because the stuff that you blog about, you speak even better about. Then the last point, folks, when it comes to being authentic, are the 4 E's of excellence. The first E is get education on the speaking game. If you can join if you guys have a speaking club in JCI Beirut, join that club. Go and educate yourself about how you can speak better. Those that have come here are educating themselves as well. So well done on coming to this education session. There are many ways you can educate yourself. Go to buy books on Kindle, on Amazon. Go to Audible. Listen to how those people who do the voiceovers and who read books read so excellently well, and see yourself doing the same, right? So that's education. The second one is experience. Nothing will beat experience, folks, and nothing will prepare you for speaking than speaking. So get opportunities to speak, go out there and do what you need to do. Speaking is one of those professions that when you that you don't have so much time to practice except when you're on stage. It's real life. You go ahead and you do it. All right. Exposure. Expose yourself to so many other speakers with different types of speaking skills and sets. Comedians, you know, listen to stand-up comedy, listen to politicians speaking, listen to business speaking. There's different in tone, in language. Listen to poets, listen to musicians. Also come listen to the folks that rap when they do the things that rhyme, and all that gives you different kind of shapes and forms of speaking, and you kind of increase your exposure. When you are used to just one, you just become super monotonous. But when you're used to many, you get better at it. And then lastly, folks, is execution. Be people who are doers. We can say all we want. You can come to as many classes as you want to come to, but you gotta give yourself a test. The people that come to my coaching classes for those who want to get into the business of speaking, the one thing that we do is to make sure in the whole session, I make sure you're speaking and you're posting it online. In fact, when you do a 1-minute video on your own, I know it's going to be recorded 3, 4, 5 times because you want to make it perfect. But when you have it and it's okay for you to post, go ahead and post it. That's like public speaking already, right? It's a fantastic way. You know, do live videos on Facebook, on Insta, you know, on YouTube, wherever. I don't know if TikTok has live sessions, but you can do that. When they give you an opportunity to become an MC, take it with all you've got. You know, you never know where that will take you. Be the MC for JCI Beirut. The next thing you know, you'll be the MC for a national convention. The next thing, they'll be calling you for an international gig. At work, at the funeral, at home, if they don't have a moderator, a facilitator, take it up. You know, it's going to give you those things. Chairing meetings is a different kind of speaking, but it's fantastic. It's a fantastic way of learning. Go ahead and take up the offer to chair meetings. Make it part of your goals. You know, set goals of how many meetings you're going to chair, how many meetings or how many functions you're going to be an MC at. Get into competitions if you need to get into competitions because they make you even better. Pick yourself up again because you're going to encounter so many times where your speaking doesn't go the way you want it to. But whenever it does, make sure you pick yourself up because it's not going to be good all the time. In fact, there are times when I have thought I have fully prepared my speech and it goes the wrong way. The performance industry is crazy. You've got this fantastic speech that you think is going to touch the people's hearts and they are going to laugh. I had that experience in 2009 in Tunisia, Hammamet, the world's public speaking competition. I'm representing Africa and the Middle East. When I was in Cote d'Ivoire doing the Africa and Middle East speech, it was a room full of people and they were like so lighted up. I was giving an inspirational speech. When I went to Tunisia for the finals, it was a room of maybe 5 to 10 people, mostly judges. That pushed me off in a big way. I started forgetting some of the points that I needed to make and couldn't say that articulately. And when I wanted them to laugh, they couldn't laugh. Some of them, they didn't. Instead of laughing, they were writing down notes. And that scared the hell out of me. But those were not the last competitions I got into because I kept picking myself up. It's something that happens. Things can go wrong, but just go for it. Become a trainer, like I said, and be courageous. Take some action, you know? I hope if anything that you hear from me today, all I'm just going to say to you is it takes a lot of practice, and I would love for you to decide what the next step is going to be for you when it comes to speaking. Are you going to take the next competitions? Are you going to take the next MC job? Are you going to take the next chairing job? What is it that you're going to do? But whatever it is, take it up. Don't be afraid. Be courageous enough to fail, because your failure will make you better and better and better. And sometimes, if you're going to go for competitions or if you're going to go for things that it will take a bigger and bolder step for you to do the uncomfortable, because the more you do the uncomfortable stuff, the more you become better at what you do. So this is it. Thank you very much for this platform. I now hand over the speaking to the MC.
Thank you, Uno. This was very inspiring. And I'm sure many of us are more motivated now to be speaking publicly. I would like to open the floor for questions if anybody has some questions. Yes, Muafa, go ahead.
Hello, Uno. Very nice to meet you and having you here. I have a question. Let's say, for example, I'm in a situation where I should improvise a speech, but I didn't prepare anything for that. What are your tips to have a great speech? Thanks.
Fantastic. Should I answer that one, or do we want to take more?
Yeah, let's answer them one at a time.
Okay, so the thing about speaking on the spot, usually what you speak on the spot comes from the heart, because you haven't read anything, you haven't gone out to research. Whatever it is that you're going to be saying is coming from right here. So number one, trust yourself to say the right thing. And then when you think of 2-3 points and that's what you want to express, just go ahead and begin to express it. And the more you talk, your mind helps you to think of what the next point is going to be. So I think trusting yourself is one part of it. The next part is all that we have talked about. You are on the spot, but you're just saying, first, remember your why. Why do you want to speak? Because when you remember your why, your mind will organize it very nicely for you, and you can then go ahead and deliver it. I hope that helps.
Yes, it was great. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from one of our international guests. Stevie, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, my name is Stevie.
Sorry, we can't hear you. Can you raise your mic?
Hear me now?
It's still a bit low.
It's still very low.
Can I write it instead?
Yes, we'll read it out.
In the meantime, does anyone else have any questions?
I wanted to ask for a tip. Whenever I'm public speaking or giving a small presentation on anything, the worst part for me is the closing. How do you make sure that the end of your last sentence is not weird or closed up by an so that was it, and you make sure that the last thing they remember is something like impactful and important?
I think remembering your why again is super important. Usually, if you know your why in your speaking, the end point is a call to action. So it's not a mistake that my last point is a call to action, right? The first part was just informing you what things you need to do. But the reason why you called me to come and talk about effective and authentic speaking is because you want more authentic and effective speakers. So I have thought to myself, whatever it is, whatever I do, if they're going to remember one thing, I am going to make sure I have more fire on my conclusion because it's telling them to go and do something about it. So if your brain knows your why, it will show you what to say. And sometimes you get worried about making your closing so smooth. It's okay if you say that's it, right? It's okay if you give yourself the permission. How do you usually speak on a day-to-day basis? If you were talking to your mom, would you say that's it? I'm done? Or if you were talking to your friend, would you say that's it? I'm done? Just think of it as a natural conversation between two people and do exactly that. If it's going to be cheers, guys, then it's cheers. If it's going to be love you all, love you all. Whatever it is, sign out in a natural way that is authentic to you, and that's how you close.
That's great. Thanks, Uno. It's a great way to see things. Makes it way less stressful.
We have a question in the chat. Do you give private lessons about public speaking?
Not the actual public speaking itself. I don't. I think there are many places where, especially in JCI, where that speaking is given, but I give private lessons to those who want to use it as a business. So those who want to, maybe they are consultants and they are part of what they have to do is to deliver it in speech. Then I teach the business of speaking. But the actual art of speaking, I don't have any sort of program that works with that. Maybe it could be something I do in the future, but I know Toastmasters does it well. I know JCI does it well. I know if you're going to church, you're going to get so many practicing platforms. So yeah, that's my answer on that one.
Okay, we have another question. Having moved into a heavily digitized world due to the pandemic, how can we engage audiences from our laptop, so virtually?
That's a very good question because engagement is now very different to, live audiences. When we are talking now, I think engagement can be in emojis, engagement can be in the chat box, engagement can be voice, engagement can be if we can see everybody, let's see them, right? Or if it's on Facebook Live, maybe engagement is, let me check your comments. I love StreamYard because if I'm doing my live broadcast, I can get an opportunity to go on to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram is the only one I can't do with that. And all the feed and comments come through to one platform. And I am able to answer that as we go, so there are many platforms that help with that. And I think it's super cool for you to be able to read people's comments and also to ask them questions if you want to engage them. What do you guys think? you know, on YouTube, there are many guys who get so many views because they speak on interesting subjects, maybe gossip. Gossip moves like crazy, folks. Did you see what MJ did on the 21st? MJ and her boyfriend came in and yada, 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 yada. Once I tell you that story, and then right down there I say, tell me what you think. Do you think MJ is all right in the brain? Do you think everything is okay in her family? Do you think the engagement that you get to see down there is fantastic? So ask them questions. That's how you get to engage.
But can we know what MJ did, or?
Uno, you put me on the spot. Okay, do we have any more questions? Feel free to type them in the chat.
We have the 2021 JCI Lebanon president that's in the lobby, but it's just not letting her in. But Rina says hello to you, Uno.
Oh, who said that?
To everybody. Our JCI Lebanon president for this year, Rina Abu Shara.
Ah, Madam President, how are you?
Problems, but she's here somewhere.
Ah, good to see you. Good to have you on the platform. Please pass my greetings to her if she can't come through later on.
We have Tatiana who would like to ask a question.
Yes, Tatiana.
Okay, hi Uno. I wanted to ask about tone. Usually when we're doing presentation, even in school, even in most settings, I normally struggle with having a good tone, not being monotonal. If we're just presenting like numbers or figures or something that's not very story-like, how do you make it sound interesting and engaging and for people not to fall asleep while hearing it?
Oh, fantastic. I hear exactly what you're saying. So everything, no matter how complex it is, can be made more personal, can be made more engaging. I do a budget presentation to our foundation every single year. And I found that most of the times I was super boring when I was coming with a spreadsheet. And that's all I bring, like this number. So the actuals here and the budget and then the variance, it's like super boring. And I threw that away this time around. I did a PowerPoint presentation. And when I followed with a story, the story was, we want to stop the bleeding. So I showed an arm that's got, you know, somebody bleeding. You know, examples, I'm talking about numbers, but there's a stopping the building. And I'm saying we're building a foundation for the future. And so we need to have so much money. And I bring in a house, I bring in builders that are really, you know, on the spot doing the thing that they need to do. And I'm using that building to say, guys, we don't have enough reserves. We need to, so if you, the way to make it more interesting is to first make your point, find out what your point is, then think hard about how to simplify it. If you were talking to my Darren, the 10-year-old, what would you say to Darren? Because the same way Darren understands stuff, it's the same way the older folk will understand it if you make it super simple. And that's how it goes. There's something that Obama says in his new book now. He says, when he was campaigning, the first time he was on the campaign trail, he used to give all these fantastic answers about, you know, healthcare. What we need to do is to make sure that everybody has healthcare. In fact, 95% of all people now should be able to get access, until he got the advice that, dude, we know you know, but we need you to engage with us. And then he started telling about healthcare in stories. You know how he speaks. I heard from Mary in North Carolina, in Boone, who told me that when her child was sick, you know, that makes a difference, because now everybody can see Mary in Boone, North Carolina, and they follow the story. Now he's made the same healthcare point that he used percentages to explain before, and people connect with stories, with simplicity. That kind of stuff makes them engage even more.
Well, thank you. That really
Welcome,
helps.
Tatiana. And your name has some rhythm to it. Tatiana, I always say that, right? You can use that too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana. Uno, we have Ghina back with us. Ghina Boushara, who's the 2021 JCI Lebanon president. Would you like to say something, Ghina?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, first of all, JCI Beirut for holding this amazing session with VP Uno. And we have definitely missed you, VP Uno. Thank you so much. It was very enriching and very much needed. We hope to see you back again in Lebanon sometime soon. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. I kept remembering the trip we had to, where was that? Was it Saleh? We together when
Yes,
we went.
we went to Zahle, yes.
Oh, I remember that trip. Fantastic. Great memories, guys.
Great memories indeed.
And thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it.
Uno, we have a question from Jana. She
Right.
says, how should we react when people show us they're uninterested in our speech? For example, they laugh or it's obvious that they're not paying attention.
Yeah, that's a bit tricky, hey? That's a bit tricky. How and what do you do? So it's usually an indicator of something that's up with our talking, right? So sometimes people want a break. They will never show you that they just, you know, want to say, gosh, you've been talking for so long, we need a break. And it's up to you to say, guys, you need a break. Sometimes if that was a joke and they didn't laugh, maybe it wasn't really a joke. And what you can do is to laugh at your own joke and be like, guys, you know what? You were supposed to laugh here and you didn't. So I'm going to laugh at this. Then they start laughing at you. You become the joke for a moment. If you can take it, you can take it. That's kind of like one of the things that you can do to engage with people. But first of all, just make sure that if they are disengaged, maybe go back to simplicity, to stories, to the why. If you are hitting their sweet spot, then they should be interested in it. But if you're hitting something that's so uninteresting to them, maybe they won't get it. So it's a lot of things about engagement, but also the other time, some crowds just won't react in the way that you want them to, and it's absolutely fine. They didn't laugh at your joke, just continue. They didn't say yes when you needed them to say yes, just continue until the end. And then cry when you are in your car. The next one is going to be better. You will find what went wrong. Guys, I'm actually sorry. I have to take off now. We have a curfew. I'm still at the office and we have a curfew at 9, so I can't be traveling after 9. And it's exactly 15 minutes to get to my house. So I gotta be speeding until I get there. So would it be okay if I am able to excuse myself, Madam Chair?
Yes, of course. Can we just take one picture with everyone just as a memory? I'd
Sure.
love for you guys to turn on your cameras if you can, just so we can take one final picture of this training. Okay, I'm gonna take a picture right now. So, cheese. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Uno, thanks for your time. We've really enjoyed having you with us again. And as President Rina said, we'd love to have you back in Beirut, hopefully in the near future.
Thank you, President MJ. Appreciate.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And,
Uno.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
we'll be posting
Thank you.
Drive safe.
Yeah, good luck on the road.